Welcome back to this Monday morning 15-minute mindset magic. We are taking a look at how to blossom and to grow in the work. Let me say that again. We are looking at how you can blossom and grow in the workplace and at home. I know it's been a long time since you might have thought about having a idea of what to do in career and life. But if you have a few strategies, some of those things might come together so quickly that you almost think that what you said a month ago isn't relevant anymore because you have grown out of that situation. But if you haven't, it means you're still stuck there and you need a little bit of a mindset shift. Now, I am all for people who want to just arrive at work and be there and do their job. But you also need to find a fulfilling way to complete your tasks every single day. And if you're doing that with a heart and a mindset that feels like a struggle to get up in the mornings, then you need a mindset shift that will take you from that dreaded moment into an excited experience to go there and do your best, of course. Now, if you're new here or joining for the first time, my name is Tanya, and I am on a mission to empower women to live happier lives, relieved of stress, and equipped to approach challenges mindfully and creatively. Together, we focus on self-mastery, mental wellness, and building you up in confidence to live a more beautiful and joyful life. So the first thing I want us to look at is the understanding of our emotions. Now, maybe you've heard of the cognitive triangle. So that's where you have your thoughts on top, and at the one end you have emotions, and on the other end you have your actions. But it all starts with your thoughts. And if your thoughts are more geared towards overthinking and rolling about that to-do list that's never ending, that's forcing you to take more and more and more and more action, it sort of paralyzes us emotionally. And when we're emotionally drained on this side, so you can just imagine that triangle looking really off balance here, overwhelm and distress and fear that you might not get your tasks done, or that things are this emotional roller coaster. You might feel like you can't handle things, and that it leads to anxiety and unease within us. And we start feeling unhappy in work, in life, and around people we used to call friends. And the idea is to have your thoughts in balance. Let your thoughts be that crown, that top of the cake cherry that helps you manage your actions and your emotions. We don't have to do this whole roller coaster thing. Now, I could have a whole workshop like I did this weekend about that cognitive triangle and how it influences us. But the next thing we need to really identify is how small things can trigger us and how we can manage those projections. And only when we start figuring out how to encourage ourselves, we get to find that mindful way to interact in an environment where we might have been triggered, but where we are conscious enough of what was said. We've reflected on what was said, and we can understand that it wasn't a criticism. It wasn't directed at us. It was maybe coming from somebody who was also having a whole lot of workload, or maybe they were also in an emotional struggle and had to get the message to you because you were the next person who needed to deal with this thing. And We are so often triggered by our own insecurities that we automatically think that people are attacking us. I don't ever want you to feel attacked. I don't want you to think that people are against you. If you can be aware of your own feelings, your own emotions, all the things that are triggered and that bubble up to the surface, you can also see that that might have been a little bit of constructive feedback. And sometimes I've said this before, sometimes we get triggered by the things that's really true, but that we are reluctant to want to hear about ourselves. We don't want to hear that we slipped up yesterday and forgot to do half our work. We don't want to hear that we act like an emotional roller coaster at work. And we certainly don't want people pointing out our problems or our inability to cope. And because of that, I want to give you 3 quick little practices that you can use, that you can implement, that you can take with you so that you can make the best of every single work day without feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated or triggered in any way. So we still have to go to work. Yes, we still have to live life, but we can do it in a more mindful way. The first thing I want you to remember is you have to do the difficult things first. Now, how do we identify that difficult thing? Well, it's probably something you've been putting off for a while. It's maybe someone you need to talk with or talk, I don't want to use the word talk to, let's say have a conversation with. And sort something out. Make sure you know exactly what's going on and what your part in that is, what's expected of you to do, and how you are going to do that. You have to step back, look at the workload, look at the things that need to be done today. You can either write them down or keep notes as you're going. But sometimes our mind fails us and our overactive jumble of ideas get trapped in our head. And we're trying to tick off all the boxes, but our brains are constantly processing and also getting distracted. And a little list on the side will just help you make sure that you've sent that email, you've checked in with a client, you've packed your children's lunch, that you've taken time to know what the most important part for that day was. And that by 4 o'clock, you're not struck with the realization that that was the one thing you didn't even do today. So how you figure these things out becomes a very important part, because when you do the most difficult thing, everything else feels easy. And when you start building that momentum, it's like you have this beautiful burst of energy in the beginning of the day where you did that hard, difficult thing. And then it feels like your day unwinds as you start doing smaller and smaller and smaller activities. And I can promise you, by 4 o'clock, you'll have little bits that you need to tie into the rest of the day. And you'll have enough time to prepare for tomorrow when we have to go back to our workplace and deal with a whole new day. Now, dealing with that day is going to be easier, especially if you know how to tie back your productivity and tackling the hardest task to free up mind space, this mental bandwidth. Remember, if our triangle goes from our emotion to our thought and our actions, and if we are overwhelmed here or we're in a stress mode here, that bandwidth just isn't wide enough for us to function properly. So through these actions, you can confidently go throughout each day, and you can confidently start tomorrow morning knowing that the biggest thing you need to do will be out of the way before you have your morning coffee. Practice number 2 is to learn to respond, not react. So when we can explore the importance of pausing to respond instead of reflecting, we can clear this illusion we have about what the other person is projecting or saying. And yes, I use the word illusion because so many times we are struck with somebody's opinion or maybe their instruction, and we feel like maybe they spoke too loud or they gave us too much to do in the moment, when the instruction was really clear and our own fear made that worse than what it was. Maybe look at a quick technique. When we are faced with tension, we need to take a deep breath. It's that internal inhale of, okay, I'm okay. How am I going to solve this? And working through your thought process. We sometimes react so quickly that we haven't even given it a thought. We haven't even allowed the other person to finish their sentences, and then we're already worked up about what is going to be said or what was said. And that whole negative response or reaction in our bodies is ruining the vibe at home, at work, in all the places we are connected to other people. We are going to be confronted with this thing where we need to decide whether we're going to react or respond. So the third practice is the 15-minute routines. And the 15-minute routines gives us an emphasis on the importance of consistency, of small daily actions that lead the path to where we want to go. And three things: our careers, our career aspirations. Where do we want to be a year from now? Are we doing the things that will lead us to that place? Am I connecting to the people I care about? Not only my own direct family and my children and my husband and my parents and the people who are closest to me, but am I building connections in a community of people who can support me in making my dream come true? Or am I building a sandcastle? Am I building a bridge that I'm going to burn later? Am I burning bridges that I've built before? Am I making things worse between friendships, or am I making them better? And then, how is my relationship with myself? How am I the person that can bring about the good things in my own life? Am I being critical? Am I being negative? Am I being overly cautious? Am I being fearful? If you can spend 5 minutes figuring out what it is you're feeling, and then 5 minutes talking yourself through that process, the next 5 minutes of this 15-minute practice could be to acknowledge all the good things you've done so far, saying you need to deal with your problems where you are and use what you have. You've got a marvelous brain that's capable of solving problems. You have hands that can make things and do things and write things and explain things, and hands that can take action. But within you is a heart that also needs nourishment and needs encouragement. And that encouragement from within is the voice that you need to start listening to. And if you're on a journey of self-mastery, of knowing who you are and knowing where you want to go, you need to encourage yourself. You need to be your own coach, your own cheerleader. You need to make sure that you continue to plant the seeds of growth, like I talked about in last week's video. And also to find a connection in a community, like I spoke about in a video 2 weeks from today, or 2 weeks ago. And in that whole construct, you get to gather the information that you need to offer clarity to your mind, to encourage you to live better, and to help you in your work environment, in your life in your situations, and also to build long-lasting relationships where you know you've done your best every single day to bring all of your heart's desires to fruition. You are the one that is responsible for implementing these mindful practices. And you are also the one who needs to take action when action is due. And you're also the one that needs to balance your emotions to make sure you don't have this runaway mind that's all over the place, scattering your thoughts. Now, if anything I've said here today resonates with you, you can find links for that in the description below. And also, make sure to watch the next video.